Hey guys, what's up? It is week 346. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, all that jazz. It's probably gone a little bit after, I think. But before we hop into this, I want to talk a little bit about the new release of August Underground's Penance. So this is the third of the August Underground trilogy, and I'm not going to review the whole product. I had a little part in this. I actually did kind of a roundtable where I talked to Fred, Shelby, Jeremy Cruz, Logan, the editor, and Ryan Logston, a friend of mine and a big fan of August Underground's Penance. So that was a lot of fun. It's on here. There's a bunch of other features on here as well. On Earth Films is putting this out along with the other first two films are out as well, and I think there will be a box set with more features and everything else later on down the line. But yeah, this thing is loaded, and I popped it in and I checked it out. I watched some of the movie and was messing around with the disc and everything like that, and it looks a lot better. I know people, the appeal to August Underground is not looking great, right? But the way this one was made was a bit different. They wanted it as if the killers had just found a camera and just started using it, and it was updated for the time it was made, 2007, around that time. So basically the new features on here, there's a ridiculous amount of original new features on here. So new original stereo mix, new commentary by FX artist Jeremy Cruz, producer Shelby Vogel, director Fred Vogel, and Ultraviolet magazine's art editor. New commentary by director Fred Vogel and editor Logan Tallman. Commentary by Toe Tag, commentary by director Fred Vogel. New editing August Underground's Penance, an interview with co-editor Logan Tallman. New The Most Disturbing Scene. Fred breaks down the most disturbing scene, the Christmas scene, and this is a Christmas movie according to Fred. Then we have Superfan Rob's Underground Experience. Superfan Rob is a massive superfan, and he talks a little bit about his scene in this film. Disembodied, the Behind the Bile documentary. That's about 58 minutes. I think it's a vintage. Commentary Toe Tag on Disemboweled. Then we have a new Zoe Rose Smith interviews Fred Vogel. Now she is Zoe. She has Zoe with the Shotgun. She has a YouTube channel, does extreme films. Pretty cool person. Good interview. And then we have a new Voyage to Perdition, an interview with Fred Vogel, and that is by Chris Severed from Severed Cinema, who runs pretty much one of the biggest underground horror movie websites. That's also a very good interview. Check that out. Then, of course, we have the new Dave Parker Roundtable with Fred Vogel, Jeremy Cruz, Shelby Vogel, Logan Tallman, Ryan Logston. New Stephen Byro interviews Jeremy Cruz. This is kind of breaking down just him talking to him about the special effects and scenes and everything like that. Deleted scenes, and then we have extended scenes. Papa Pill, the Murderer's Back music video. Rug, the Locust music video. New extended photo gallery. New teaser outtakes and trailers. So yeah, this is probably my favorite of the trilogy. I've always been a big fan of this one. Kind of shows the end of the killers and everything like that, and how Fred explains it in the special features. He explains it as a mountain. You're going up in August. Underground, the original, you reach the peak of insanity and mortem, and then you're going down here and you see the end of it all. But if you're a fan of this, check it out. All three of them were released this year. First wide release of any of these movies. They were really just sold by Toe Tag for the longest time. Anyways, August Underground's Penance, great film, great release. I highly suggest you check it out. So we're going to hop into the reviews now, and the first one up is from 88 Films. This is a 1991 movie from Hong Kong, and this is The Blue Jean Monster. Now, I had seen this one before for 91. I watched it. The star in this movie is Fang-un. I've seen this guy in a bunch of stuff. He's actually in The Untold Story, which you guys will know. In The Untold Story, he is the guy that essentially beats the shit out of Anthony Wong, right? In the prison. He's in a slew of things. So this is basically, in the 87 we had the kind of crazy thing, RoboCop, right? And in RoboCop, essentially, it created this kind of super cop kind of subgenre, right? Where you have, zombie cop, Dead Heat as well, zombie cop, demon cop, psycho cop, maniac cop. We have all these kind of crazy cops, and RoboCop, Maniac Cop are kind of early on. So the Blue Jean Monster is essentially about a cop who gets special powers. So in the very beginning, there's a group of ruthless slugs who are carrying out a bank robbery, and it's a great scene, a really violent scene. Actually, probably the best scene in the entire movie is the opening bank robbery, where somebody loses an entire arm in gory detail. They chase the cop hero, the hero here, chases these bad guys to this kind of dump, this kind of place that looks like the end of RoboCop, actually, and they mess him up. He gets this thing dropped on him. They think he's dead, and some sort of supernatural thing occurs. There's a lightning, of course, how you reanimate any corpse, and these weird kind of circumstances set. He has a wife, and she's pregnant on the way with a child, and their brother, I think, or the brother-in-law lives with them. So what happens is he's trying to hide the fact that he has become this blue jean monster, that he is this kind of zombie cop who's out for revenge from his wife, and that's a lot of the comedy hijinks. A lot of these Hong Kong movies are, pretty much comedies and everything, and there's a huge comedy element in that, and they play a lot of these gay jokes jokes, of course, you know, that his wife starts thinking he's gay, so there's all these silliness. And then eventually the film kind of builds up to a climax where he's going to face off against the baddies. The baddies are pretty memorable, pretty good. It ends in a good old warehouse, you know, and there's plenty of action in there and everything like that. Overall, it's a pretty solid movie. It's kind of a fun film. It ends a little bit more downbeat than one might expect, but Blue Jean Monster, it's nice to see it on Blu-ray. I didn't really expect this one to hit Blu-ray. I didn't know how popular it was. I mean, I do enjoy the film myself, but yeah, it's a nice release. It looks good and sounds good, and there are some features on here. We have the original Cantonese mono with English subtitles, Man-Made Monster, interview with assistant director Sam Leone, Still Gallery, original Hong Kong trailer, reversible cover art, all that. So if you're a fan of any of these actors or this film, Ivan Lau, he did a bunch of other ones too, and I know I messed up. I think he did, I want to say he did Daughter of Darkness. I mix up a lot of these Hong Kong directors, but this is a pretty solid film. Nice release from 88 Films. Okay, the next one is from 88 Films as well, and this is The Inspector Wears Skirts. Now, this was the start of a series. This one was released in what, the 88, and then there was 3 other sequels, actually, kind of closely by, and I know that 88 Films is putting out the second one, but this has some big names in here, of course. Cynthia Rothrock is the one that I think would stand out to a lot of people here, and she's in the very opening of this one. So this movie has a really amazing opening as well. That's kind of a pattern with Hong Kong movies. They have a great opening, they catch your attention right there, and then they kind of slow down a bit, and then they pick up at the very end. They always end on a big note and open on a big note. So what happens is we have this film production being shot, and we have these kind of people guarding it, and they think that it's all part of the act, but these terrorists kind of break in and start kind of causing all these problems, and Cynthia Rothrock is there, and our lead of her, the inspector, you know, who is going to train all these girls in the future, is there as well, and they kind of stop this crazy kind of terrorist attack and save some lives. But it's pretty entertaining. It's really full of stunts and high diving stuff, really good stuff. Then we kind of slow down, and we realize what we want here is that basically one of the commanding officers is like, you know, if we had a lot of women there, they just handled this really well, we could kind of create an all-woman squad. And that's why we have the Inspector Wears Skirts. So essentially they agree upon it, and we have these kind of dueling groups here, a man group and a woman group, so we have battle of the sexes. A lot of humor ensues, as you would with the Hong Kong film. So we have all a pretty good group of girls here, women and men, and they're all kind of, a lot of them are comical, and they develop all the characters. But of course, a lot of it is about unity and standing together and fighting and everything like that, and coming together to create this ultimate squad. And eventually, like Stripes or any of these other movies, this ultimate squad is going to have to go on a mission of their own, right? And at the very end, we kind of have this like kidnapping, diamond heist kind of deal going on. And there's an actor from the previous film in here. Blue Jean Monster is in it himself as one of the goons. The goons are good in here. The ending's really solid. Now, I would say The Inspector Wears Skirts is really good. It's fun, but it never reaches the highs of like Yes Ma'am with Cynthia Rothrock and Michelle, you know, Yeoh. It's not as good as those Hong Kong movies, but it's a pretty solid one, and there's some funny moments. A huge scene in a roller rink, which is like, it's like there's a lot of good gags in there, and it takes forever. It's like a 25-minute scene. It's like the scene in The Deer Hunter, the marriage scene, the wedding scene. But as far as the features are concerned, I'm comparing those scenes, by the way. That's funny. We have an audio commentary by Frank Jin. Shooting, that's a good commentary. He talks a little bit about the movie and the comedy and everything and who everybody is. Shooting Her Shot, an interview with Cynthia Rothrock. The director wears titles. The director wears pants. Sorry, interview with director Wilson Chin. Top Squad, English opening and closing titles. Hong Kong trailer, English trailer, Stills Gallery, reversible cover with artwork by Sean Longmore and original HK poster art. Yeah, it looks good. It sounds good. There's a lot of good laughs, a lot of good action. Overall, I would recommend this one. If you're like into training and cop movies, this is a pretty good one. Inspector Wears Skirts. This is kind of an interesting one here. I really kind of forgot about this remake. This was actually made in 2016, but I don't think it got a wide release until just now from Synapse Films. This is the 4K of Blood Feast. This is directed by Marcel Walz, who I think I've seen a couple of his independent movies. La Pete the Gore, I think he's a French director, and you know, I was a little hot and cold on that. I didn't love it, but this is a bigger step up, I think, in like in like budget and everything. So the original, of course, Blood Feast from the early 60s, Herschel Gordon Lewis gore classic, made the Video Nasties list, but was pretty much one of the, you know, catalysts for gore in films, maybe along with Coffin Joe. But I think that Herschel Gordon Lewis is considered the godfather of gore, rightfully so, of course. Even though I'm a Fulci guy, I will admit the original OG of Godfather of Gore was Herschel Gordon Lewis. So he made these gore films. He made a trilogy, of course, along with 2000 Maniacs and Color Me Blood Red, and he made a bunch of really low budget, nasty, gory movies that are pretty schlocky for the most part. There's some standouts, of course, but yeah. So Blood Feast has kind of like semi been remade over the years. So Mardi Gras Massacre is considered a semi-remake. Blood Cult, the SOV, is considered a semi-remake. Blood Diner by Jackie Kong is considered a partial remake. So all these movies are partially remakes of Blood Feast. So then there was a sequel later on in early 2000s, which I still have not watched for some reason, which was directed by Herschel Gordon Lewis as well, I believe, or at least produced by him. So we have this one in 2016, and they're going to take it a serious approach here. So I gotta say, what is this? Richard Russler is in here, and Caroline Williams. So kind of some horror royalty. Richard Russler was in Vamp, Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Weird Science, Jacob's Wife. He's a really solid, kind of underrated actor. It's nice seeing him get work. Well, he's been working probably, I don't know if he'd never stopped, but he's been Jacob's Wife, and he's in this. So it's nice to see him doing more modern films. Caroline Williams was in that movie a couple years back, 10 to Midnight, of course. I think 10 Minutes Till Midnight. She was a DJ, and she's also in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. She's Stretch. Good actress as well. Solid in this. And those two are probably the best performances in the film. So this is kind of a strange one because it is a film made in France, or it's a French film. I think it's made in France and a couple other different places here, but the director's French. So the plot is, of course, Ramsey, and Russell Russell plays a good Ramsey. It's a good casting remake instead of, what was his name, Mal. I can't think of his. I don't want to say it's Mal Arnold. It is Mal Arnold, I think, was the original Ramses. So basically, he opens this kind of retro diner in France, and with his wife Caroline Williams and their daughters. They're going to school. So they do it to kind of pay for the school. They're struggling financially. At midnight, he's kind of a night watchman at a museum as well. So we're tying all this together, right? He also takes some medication for some things like that. The stress is getting to him. So essentially what happens is he dumps his medicine on accident down the sink while he's doing the hospital. Somebody kind of approaches him, Ishtar, right? And tells him about the blood feast and seduces him. So over time, without his medicine and slowly losing his grip on reality, he starts to kill people. And of course, eat them. And he's going to prepare the Egyptian feast from the original movie. Now, and over years, and over time, I think I've grown an affinity for Blood Feast. Everybody knows that everybody makes a joke. It's like, oh, Dave hates Herschel Gordon Lewis. I respect the shit out of Herschel Gordon Lewis. I just really hate Wizard of Gore and a couple other ones. Okay, forgive me. Wizard of Gore sucks. But as far as the remake of Blood Feast is concerned, it's kind of a strange remake to do, right? I mean, it's been remade in a lot of ways, and instead of like updating it in that kind of weird like shellacky campy thing, because that was like not purposely done. It's just a low budget movie, so it's really kind of crappy, but it's just got its charm to it. Or making it like Blood Diner and silly, they go really serious. They try to make it as gritty as they can. And then, in 2016, a lot of the movies just were kind of desaturated of color. They didn't have much color to them. They were kind of drained to look kind of gray. And I hate the look of that. I'm not going to lie. I hate the look. It's just a product of its time. There's some stingers that you hear that are very much products of their time. Like you're just like, all these stingers that everybody had the thing for. So that's a product of its time as well. Not enough to condemn the movie or anything like that. And some of the side acting, I would say the main group was pretty good. Like I said, Russler's good, Williams is good, the daughter's all right. Some of the cop is okay, and then like some of the friends, not all of them, just some of them are really terrible. I don't want to point out and individual actors or actresses, but there's some are just garbage. They're just not very good. They're not actors. And there's some of the characters too. Like a lot of the friend characters are written as just these like one-dimensional, childish characters that look way too old to be concerned about silly things. Like, I have a crush on you, and it's like I should. Just all sorts of stuff like that. That's not very well written. I mean, it's not really intended to be. That's not really what this movie's about, but it would have helped a little bit. It's really just kind of being about the gore and the downward spiral of Ramses, and that's kind of what we have here. There's a couple decent kills. There's some really just poor exposition writing, like writing that just it gets you one scene and another. Like somebody's car breaks down and they just wander into the restaurant and like, you want a blowjob? And you're like, this is not writing. This is just like to kill as many kids. But the movie's pretty fairly played straight, so it's just like, I don't know what's happening here. Like that kind of stuff is just like a little sloppy, a little shitty. But it's just also at the same time you're looking at the original. You're like, are we really what kind of standard are we holding this to? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what. But so as far as the special effects are concerned, the gore effects and stuff, they're pretty solid. It doesn't have the same charm as the original, whatever you would call that kind of charm that the original Blood Feast has. But it has some sort of, I guess, gore that I think people will enjoy. And I said Russler's good. And the ending, the twist ending, I kind of like. I kind of like that they're just like, yeah, that's what would happen probably, right? You kind of get what you deserve on that aspect. Overall, I think it's all right. I don't think it's an amazing masterpiece. I think it's interesting that it even exists, to be honest. And I've seen a lot worse remakes, especially of something of this caliber of a remake like that. Overall, I like Richard Russler. I think that the 4K it looks is pretty solid for what it is. I mean, like I said, I'm not a particular fan of how the film looks itself, but the 4K looks good, sounds good. I just don't like the draining of the color typically, but that's very much a product of its time. Overall, it's all right. There is some nudity here and there. I believe that Ishtar is nude in the film, if I'm not mistaken, and there's some decent gore. So, I mean, if you're looking for gore, look no more. Blood Feast remake, not as gory as you might think, but pretty gory nonetheless, especially the end scene. And I think the end scene's pretty solid. So yeah, as far as the features are concerned, original uncut version, Indiegogo promotional teaser, trailer, making of featurette, Chili Con Curtis Tonight, music video, Blood Feast red carpet premiere 2018, Blood Feast scare cam. So there we go here. Yeah, and it is in we have. Do we have HDR? We have Dolby Vision HD R10 compatible. So there we go. Check it out if it sounds like it's up your alley. All right, next up, we're going to tackle this Cushing Curiosities box set from Severn Films. Now I'm doing everything in the set except the Sherlock Holmes. I'm doing the Sherlock Holmes next week. It's 5 hours of Sherlock Holmes. I had no problem watching 5 hours of Sherlock Holmes TV stuff with Peter Cushing. It's just I have trouble cramming in this much Cushing on top of the Sherlock Holmes. So that'll be next week. I don't want to just skim over everything completely. But this box set has Tender Dracula, Bloodsuckers, Sherlock Holmes, The Man Who Finally Died, Suspect, and Cone of Silence. So yeah, this is an excellent set here. Here's how it unfolds. I'll show you in the video. And nice little booklet on there with Peter Cushing giving you a wink. So we are going to start with Cone of Silence. And this was made, let me get that, 1960, 92 minutes long. So this is a really interesting box set here. Now, Cushing doesn't star in every movie. Cushing is basically supporting in almost every one of these movies, probably besides Sherlock Holmes, for obvious reasons. So The Cone of Silence is an interesting film here, 1960. And what we have here is we have this pilot who's being put on trial right in the very beginning. And who's the character actor? George Sanders is grilling this guy. Great performance by George Sanders. He pops up in stuff like The Girl from Rio and a lot of classier movies and Psychomania, of course. So for you horror fans out there, what happens is this guy is being accused of causing a problem. He's a pilot, and it's his responsibility why his co-pilot died. They're trying to blame him. Anyways, this guy's looking into it as well from the outside, and he's talking to this who he thinks is a reporter. Turns out it's his daughter, this pilot's daughter, and they start this kind of strange relationship, although he really shouldn't because he's a pilot. I mean, he works for the airport as well, kind of inspecting pilots. Anyways, this guy gets basically free to go. He gets lifted of charges, and then not before long, something else happens. And it starts to build, and we start to suspect, is there something wrong with this guy? Is there something wrong with this model of plane? Is there something wrong with Peter Cushing? Peter Cushing is another pilot who takes a really deep interest in this pilot, and he starts to look into it himself. And there's points in this, just knowing Cushing and watching his history, all his films, I start to suspect him of something that he possibly could not even be doing, which is really good. So it becomes this kind of like, I wouldn't say like melodrama. It's not really that. It's kind of like this mystery, this kind of this procedural to figure out what's wrong with this plane or what possibly could be happening. And every time something happens different or dramatic, you kind of go back and forth on what's happening. Overall, this is a really solid one. The court stuff is great. George Sanders is really good. Peter Cushing's good in it too. Cushing's very like good and nervous and just overall solid. And it shows you kind of like the stuff that not like letting everything known, all the details can really kind of fuck you up. And the ending is just, it's well done. You know, it's a good ending. It's a solid ending, interesting ending for sure. As far as the special features are concerned, we have a high drama interview with actor Michael Craig, newsreel of Peter Cushing and his miniature soldiers, which is pretty funny. It illustrated in this also has the Cushing Curiosities on here. So Peter Cushing on the Funster show with Paul Carrington. I think that's the one that's 12 minutes where they talk to him about horror movies and everything like that. And he's pretty old at the time, mentions him being deaf and not watching too many new horror movies. That had to be around the mid-'80s. The Guardian interview with Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing interviewed by Tony Dalton, author of Terence Fisher, Master of the Gothic. Cushing View, 1973, interview with Peter Cushing on Whitstable and his late wife, Helen. Yeah, that's when he talks about, you know, his losing his wife and moving on to the afterlife. But overall, I listened to all these, and hearing Cushing charm a crowd is the most adorable thing ever. Peter Cushing's talking to these people, and they start to like, he's like talking to the crowd. He's like, oh, I don't love an audience, but I do love you guys. And he's just like, it's so charming. They go through his entire history. They talk to him a lot. They talked about him working with Laurel and Hardy, all sorts of things like that. So, I mean, if you're a Cushing fan, just hearing him talk and be candid was very nice. And just seeing him, you can hear the light in his voice talking to the audience and just kind of being interviewed. It was very nice. So that is Cone of Silence. Strong, good movie, and a lot of good features on this disc itself. Okay, next up is Suspect, and this one was made in 1960 as well. And this one actually I really enjoyed. This is a bizarre film here, and this is kind of like a science kind of film. Essentially, we have here Peter Cushing in this one. He plays this head scientist, and he's trying to work on curing the plague. And right now, in this time in this film, it's right after World War II. There's a lot of death in 1960. So there's like plagues happening all around the world. He wants to clear the bubonic plague, I think, is what they're looking to do, research in that. And he has a couple younger scientists underneath him, one not too young, middle age, and then a younger woman who has a husband at home who is crippled from the war, Ian Bannon. Very good performance by him in this film. He's missing both of his arms. One of them is prosthetic. So he's at home. And she's starting kind of this affair with her colleague. So that kind of plays into it. So basically, the department tells them that we don't want you to figure this out because it could be dangerous if it gets into the hands of someone else. So they cancel it. And before long, Ian Bannon hears about it. And he is a manipulative person, a very jealous person. And he starts to play on this middle-aged scientist that is dating his wife. And he starts to pull the strings. And this is when Donald Pleasance enters, who's this kind of suspicious newsman, is what he says. And he kind of is a drunk in this bar. He's really good in it. Parsons is what they call him. So before long, they deploy Thorley Walters, a Hammer regular, great actor, in here to kind of figure out what the fuck is happening and if there's going to be a leak, if it's Cushing, all these kind of things. Cushing's solid in it. But I think Ian Bannon and, Pleasance and Thorley Walters are just as good. So, I mean, like, Ian Bannon probably steals the show. I think his performance is really strong. Overall, I think this is one of the better ones in the box set that I watched. I really liked it. I thought it was great. And I love seeing Pleasance in here. And overall, it's just this really solid, well-done thriller kind of espionage thing. A Cold War kind of mass hysteria. And it's good to see like how the backdrop of war has affected these people, in the 60s. And it's a lot of those early 60s movies in Britain. A lot of the movies seem to have like some sort of aspect of talking about the war and how it's affected people. So there's an audio commentary with Jonathan Rigby, author of English Gothic, and horror historian Kevin Lyons on this. So yeah, great stuff. Love this one. The next one is The Man Who Finally Died, and this is from 1962. This is a longer film. And this stars Cushing, of course, but it also stars Stanley Baker. Now, Stanley Baker, I remember from the one with the baboons, Sands of the Blood. He's great in that one. I can't think. He's in a couple other ones that I've seen him in, too, and he's always a solid actor. This time, I thought he was excellent in here. So this is one of these crazy stories here that's like, it feels straight out of like this elaborate thriller. So essentially what happens is Stanley Baker gets a call from a mysterious person that says your father is not dead, or he just died, all these weird things like that. And so he ends up showing up here. He thinks his father died several years ago. It turns out that they're telling him he died just recently. And they're burying him. And as he starts to dig deeper, nothing seems right. His sister-in-law or the person who's married to his dad, nothing seems right. The doctor who is in charge of it is Peter Cushing. He seems suspicious as shit. And there's a guy on the sidelines who starts to help him out to figure out what's going on, claiming he's an insurance agent. So as he starts to dig deeper and go under the surface, he becomes almost like a man on a mission against the police, against everything. He's demanding graves be dug up, and everybody seems to be in on something that he's not until we have this big reveal and everything kind of gets flipped on its head, as it should. Stanley Baker is a really solid lead in here. I mean, he's different. He's not like your sure kind of guy. He's just kind of almost unhinged, to be honest, and I think it's a good performance. Peter Cushing is always solid, and overall this is a really good one. Ends on a train. I thought it was really good. I don't have too much to say without spoiling it, but as the further it goes on, the further the mystery gets more and more interesting. So as the more it progresses, the more interesting it gets. This commentary is probably my favorite on here because you got Kim Newman, author of Anno Dracula, and Barry Forshaw, author of Brit Noir, and they're pretty funny. They're funny people. They talk a lot about all the actors in here and everything like that, and they just make a couple jokes, not at the movie's expense, but just because they're funny guys and they're intelligent and they can get away with it. But that is The Man Who Finally Died. Also, these both look really solid, black and white films, but yeah, great stuff. Next up here is a 1971 film, and this is Bloodsuckers, aka Incense of the Damned. Now, this took me back. When I covered 1970, it was all vampires and cults and witches and all these kind of things like this, and this one is 1971. It's totally that. We got Patrick Macnee and Peter Cushing. Gotta love that. Love Patrick Macnee, love Peter Cushing. And I think that Cushing's role in this one is a little bit smaller, but solid. Decent role. Patrick Macnee, I think, is in it a little bit more. So this is a bizarre one. What we have here is this young man. He's an intelligent man. He's with this woman, and he starts to kind of disappear. He's over in Europe, and he starts to see this other girl, and he kind of disappears. And like, so all these people, his best friend, who seems to be kind of like a protege, weird lover thing. I don't know. They're not lover, but whatever. It seems kind of more close than friends. And his fiance are going to go over there and try to find him, along with Patrick Macnee and some other people. So it turns out that he was kind of indoctrinated into this cult, and they do not know how far gone he is. They just know that they got to get him out of it. The one thing that really stands out about this movie is this is the most uncut version of it. I don't think that every version had this stuff early on, because there is like a 15 to 20, not exaggerating, I'd say at least 8-minute orgy scene. Orgy psychedelic trip scene where genitals, like male, like dick, schlong is dropped, and I was just like, 1971, it's crazy. You see guys making out, and like lots of women, lots of nudity, and I was just like, that's pretty crazy for 1971. And considering the rest of the movie is fairly like standard, like not so extreme, that's that orgy scene, that drug out stuff was very psychedelic, psychological, which is what I call a lot of these 70, 71 early stuff like that. It's a mix of psychedelic, mix of psychological, because this guy's kind of being manipulated with under these drugs and everything. Obviously, 1969, Charles Manson, that carried on into all these movies and everything. It's going to be a horror show, right? So yeah, that's kind of what we have here. A lot of the movie takes place in the desert, kind of chasing this guy down and trying to stop everything like that and stop the head kind of this cult. And you know, it's pretty solid. I like Macnee. I've always liked him. I remember him from Waxwork and isn't he The Beast Must Die? I think he's in that one as well. Just a really solid overall good actor, good British actor. I know he was in a lot of television shows. Was he in The Avengers, I believe, the original show. Cushing, I think, is a little underutilized in this one. I don't think his performance is super standout, but you know, he is kind of the overbearing kind of father type. Overall, I think this is a good one. Not my favorite in the set, but good, and I was shocked by that. Like not shocked, I was just surprised, like in this time period in this movie. So let's see that orgy in there. So what we have here is audio commentary by Jonathan Rigby, author of English, Gothic, and horror historian Kevin Lyons. Stranger in the City, short film by Robert Hartford Davis. Daddy's Girl, interview with director Robert Hartford Davis, daughter Jean Hartford Davis. Bite Me, Tygon, Blood on a Budget. That is kind of like the other, not Amicus, not Hammer Company. Author John Hamilton and Robert Hartford Davis. The Trip, interview with uncredited drug orgy actress François Pascal, and Hydrophonics, interview with sound recordist Tony Daw. Freedom Seeker, title sequence. So there we go here. Yeah, this one's pretty solid. Short, nudity, sexual stuff in here. Good stuff. I would recommend it. I should mention that Edward Woodward is in here as well, as kind of like this from The Wicker Man, and he's a guy who just knows all about kind of witchcraft and witch and vampires and all this thing, and he gives a whole big speech about it too. Of course, the main guy here, I can't remember who the main guy is. All right in here, he's like a cop. I mean, he's the least memorable out of everyone, and I don't mean that as an insult. There is this really long fight scene where the guy's best friend has to fight like these 4 guys that chase him down, and it's a pretty fun fight scene. But yeah, there's that too. Anyways, Bloodsuckers, Incense of the Damned, pretty interesting stuff. Looks pretty good. I would recommend it if you're a fan of early 70s horror. It's kind of a must. And the last in the set, but certainly not the least, is 1974's Tender Dracula. And this is the weirdest movie of the set. I watched this one first, and I was just like, what in the fuck is this? So this is before Rocky Horror, 74, and it has some of that charm, because there's like people break out in musical numbers, and the musical numbers are some of the best part of the movie. So, oh boy, this one definitely requires another watch, because I can't even grasp 100% what was happening. But so, I mean, I got what was happening, but so Peter Cushing is an actor who works in a Dark Shadows type television program. He's done a bunch of these vampire episodes, and it's a big hit. The producer wants him to continue. Peter Cushing does not. He wants to do a romantic television program. So essentially, it's up to 2 writers to go to his castle with their girlfriends and convince Peter Cushing that he wants to do the vampire show. They gotta kind of scare it into him, get him back into horror. So they're like trying to fake their deaths. They're doing all sorts of ridiculously weird things, and at the same time, you're just not sure if Cushing actually is a vampire. So this would be the only time Cushing ever got to play a vampire. And if you think of all the other actors like that, Price played it in Monster Club, Carradine played it in some of the Universal Draculas, Pleasance played it in Monster Club, and then Cushing, of course, Lee played it a million times in all the Hammer Draculas and Franco's Dracula. So this is the only time that old Cushing possibly got to play a vampire. So it's just kind of fun that in that aspect. And right in the beginning, he comes out and he starts screaming, and I was just like, this. I was taken back. I was like, don't yell, Cushing. And that people sometimes make the joke that Cushing always gets it, that he's like this grandpa type, and they always just associate him with that. But I was just shocked to see Cushing scream. I never see him scream like that in movies. It's kind of like when you watch Corruption, you see him sweating, strangling women. You're like, this is off-putting. This is weird. But yeah, so you're watching like this, and he just starts screaming, and it was just kind of, I taken it back a little bit. But this is a weird, bizarre fantasy comedy, kind of almost like, I don't even say broad, but there's like Benny Hill kind of shit. Like people, it just feels so weird, and there is special effects that are good. It's got a nice gothic look to it. They break out in musical numbers, and it's just, I think, a little before its time, to be honest. I think that this was onto something. And of course, Aldavali's in here too, from Suspiria and Inferno and a slew of other ones. Was that one? It's Only a Game, the Mondo Macabro with David Hemming. She's in that as well. But no, this is an interesting film. I don't know if I can give it a wholehearted recommend, but I definitely will rewatch. And I definitely look at it and study it and take interest in it. So we have audio commentary of Jonathan Rigby, author of English Gothic, and horror historian Kevin Lyons, Love Me Tender, Dracula interview with director Pierre Grunstein, Mendez of Speaking, interview with actor Bernard Mendez. So yeah, bizarre film. Goofy, silly, weird, really cool to see it, finally. I've heard about it, but I didn't know much about it. And then, of course, we'll get to the Sherlock Holmes next week. But that's the box set, the Cushing Curiosities, a nice booklet in here as well. That is insane. Gotta love Cushing, one of the all-time great horror actors. Top 3, 4, probably, honestly. But yeah, great stuff. Okay, we're going to carry that Christmas spirit on, and I got a chance to pop in my 4K of Krampus. That's right, the naughty cut. I didn't notice any difference in the cut except a couple F-bombs, to be honest. But this is Michael Dougherty. This is directed in 2015. Michael Dougherty, of course, did Trick or Treat, and he did Godzilla, the new Godzilla, which I didn't check out. But I watched Trick or Treat several times and loved it, and I saw this in theaters when it came out, and I loved it. Watched it a couple times since. I've not watched it in quite a long time, so I was like, hey, I want to get in the Christmas spirit. I'm going to pop in this 4K, and let me tell you this, Krampus holds up, man. This was so much fun. It was so good to revisit it. Kind of like came alive. I honestly kind of came alive watching it again, and I was just like, oh, that was so good. So essentially what we have here is it opens up with Black Friday shopping, people getting injured. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. It's kind of showing that awful capitalistic spirit that Christmas has become, the Hallmark holiday, that idea that Americans and everyone in general just doesn't give a shit. They don't have hope. And so then we kind of cut to this family getting together for Christmas. Toni Collette is the mom, Adam Scott is the dad, and we have the in-laws coming in, David Koechner and his wife and all their kids. So we got a great cast here. David Koechner, Toni Collette, Adam Scott are all really underrated people to me. Keckner's been great in everything he's ever done. He's just fucking hilarious, from Dirty Work to Anchorman to Krampus to everything. Cheap Thrills, just a great actor. And Toni Collette, get out of here, man. She's great. All the way from Nightmare Alley and Hereditary and everything she does. So Adam Scott's been great at Art School Confidential, hilarious scene. So everybody in this movie's great. And then we have a couple character actors, of course, the aunt. So it's this big family. We have this like kind of left leaning and right leaning families. We're gonna have these conflict and everything like that. And honestly, everyone in the film seems kind of like an asshole. But what they do really well is everybody's an asshole, but I like everybody. I like every character. I don't. You just kind of like them all. They're all assholes. You know who they are, but you kind of overall just like them. They're just funny. They remind. Some people say the stuff that you've heard other family members say, and you're just like, whatever. So they kind of barge in the house, big family, 6, and they're just, the whole kind of almost everybody's like kind of a semi-stereotype. But as it progresses, you get a little bit of layers, and you see who they are, and just kind of stuff like that. And they start to bond over time. But the young kid is a really big Christmas kid, the son of Adam Scott and Toni Collette. He loves Christmas. And throughout this entire time, he's beginning in fights because the Christmas spirit, all this kind of stuff like that. And nobody else is following it. So his grandma on his dad's side, Omni, who's German. So she's like wants him to deliver the letter to Santa Claus, send it, but instead he gets really upset and he rips it up, and this kind of curses his family. Soon enough, there's a giant snowstorm outside, and when people don't have hope, Krampus comes. Krampus is like a folk kind of character. He basically takes away bad kids and whatnot. So yeah, Krampus comes with his army of evil minions, elves, and killer toys, and that's essentially the plot of the movie. It's a lot of fun. The atmosphere is super thick. On this 4K, it looked amazing. It looked so good. The Dolby Atmos was amazing. The Dolby Atmos mix was probably my favorite part. The storm, everything, it made me jump. Everything was great in it, and it looks amazing because the atmosphere. A lot of this is practical effects too, a lot more than people would suspect. Of course, the gingerbread men are not, but as it progresses on, people get picked off. There's a lot of like scary, isolated scenes. Snowmen keep popping up every time somebody disappears, and you see like gremlins and elves behind them and stuff like that. There is some sort of like tremor under the snow. We have a major awesome shout out to Demonic Toys here, which I absolutely loved. But yeah, overall, the special effects, the characters, the way people are taken out and dispatched, and the ending. The ending is really great. Open to interpretation. I have my own. As Michael Dougherty said, take it as you want it. The more cynical you are, the more cynical the ending. But yeah, so it's just an excellent Christmas movie. The special effects are top notch. The acting is top notch. There's tons of funny lines in here, especially from David Koechner. It's a little dry. Mine tastes great. Well, mine was a little dry. Just stuff like that. It's just so funny, the bickering back and forth, all sorts of things like that. Well-developed characters you end up managing to like, even though they're jerks. You like them all. You're worried about them. And an adorable bulldog. So, I mean, like, as far as the features are concerned, we have audio commentary director, co-writer Michael Dougherty, and co-writers Tom Casey and Zach Shields. And then as far on the Blu-ray, we have the interviews. So Michael Dougherty, this is new. Visual effects artist Richard Taylor, actors Alice Tolman, David Koechner, Emma Anthony, co-writer, co-producer Todd Casey, and more. Then we have audio commentary with Dougherty, Todd Casey, Zach Shields, alternate ending, deleted scenes, extended scenes, gag reel, Krampus Comes Alive, 5-part featurette including Dougherty's vision, the naughty ones meet the cast, Krampus and his minions, practical danger, and the inside snow globe production design. Behind the scenes at Weta Workshop, Krampus, still gallery, theatrical trailer, TV spots. One of the best Christmas horror movies ever made, up there with Black Christmas, the OG, Christmas Evil, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Gremlins. It's up there. It's cream of the crop, baby. Cream of the crop. Top 5, probably, somewhere around there. That, just off the top of my head. I'm sure there's a few I'm just forgetting. But anyways, this and Scrooged are some of my all-time favorite Christmas movies, and those other ones I named. Yeah, great stuff. All right, so Vinegar Syndrome announced a new line, and they're kind of doing some SOV stuff, some stuff mastered on film. And they started off with a banger. I talked about Meet the Feebles a few weeks ago as one of my all-time favorite movies growing up, and this was another one here. I'm just a redneck zombie without you. Made in like Maryland, Baltimore, kind of like, I think. No, it was Maryland and what? It was right on the border here. So this is Redneck Zombies. Redneck Zombies. Late 80s, maybe shot in the mid 80s, released in the late 80s from Troma. It was kind of a weird thing here. So yeah, it was distributed by Troma. Not originally made by Troma, but it's directed by Pirkis Loons and some other people. It's a group of filmmakers here. So Redneck Zombies is one of my all-time favorites. Seeing this on Blu-ray made me very happy with a bunch of features. So essentially the plot is as follows. A nuclear waste barrel ends up as some hillbillies still. They drink it, they turn to redneck zombies. A group of people camping from the big city get attacked by them. It's up to them to survive while the soldier tries to stop the zombie outbreak. It's really goofy. The humor is a precursor totally to South Park. If you like Cannibal the Musical, if you like South Park kind of humor, that offensive, stupid, silly, goofy stuff that is also kind of clever and funny in a way, then you probably like this. I really think that Redneck Zombies is a great precursor to the South Park boys. So this was not shot on film. It was not shot on video exactly, but somewhere in between, like a special kind of tape, according to the director. I never knew that. I always just assumed SOV. Basically, it is, but not legitimately, if that makes any sense. Whatnot. It's shot analog. Let's just put it that way. So this movie is one of the goofiest, weirdest things I've ever seen. It's incredibly gory. It has shout-outs to, of course, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's got elements of, Romero in there. But overall, it is just a group of people that grew up, like, making movies. They had this show, this, like, Access television show. They always made movies, and it was just, like, two groups of people coming together that made this show, and then they decided to make a movie. And you have that. I think that I was drawn to this movie. Well, I'm drawn to like early like Peter Jackson because it's like a group of people coming together to make something they love. Like Murder Party is another one that I felt that in. Like this group of people coming together to make it happen. The Jeremy Saulnier movie, Murder Party, his first film. I feel like there is a certain amount of energy about these movies where you can tell they're having so much fun and it comes off the screen. It's insane. It's ridiculous. It's gross. It's just pure insanity. And all those movies have this like fun to them, this try hard quality that they're 100% serious, and they don't, they got their freebie, right? They got their one there. They got all their friends there for free. Everybody's there trying their hardest, and this is the one they're going to put it into. And I really feel like it's in this. And it's just, the jokes are so funny. They're outdated, of course, but I could quote this whole movie. I hope it tastes good. You got it all over the corn squeezes, otter ass. I'm sorry, Daddy. I told you to call me Ellie Mae. There's so much shit in here. A lot of outdated gay jokes, of course. Like I said, it's in the style of that South Park silly shit. There's a character in here named Fern Mertz. He's a really babby hillbilly guy, and he's just so full of energy, and all the stuff he does is so funny. He's like, you said your steel's no good yourself there, man. You said Fern Mertz, your steel's no good. It's just, I cannot get across to how quotable and stupid this fucking thing is. Every line in it is hilarious. And there's one scene in this film. So there's essentially basically an ice cream man, right? But he's the tobacco man, because we're stereotyping rednecks or whatever. And so you hear the bell, and basically this guy wearing a potato sack shows up, and his face is all melted underneath. And he sells the boys tobacco dip, and he has this giant monologue, and it's just the scariest goddamn weirdest thing ever. It's out of like an acid trip or something, and he's like, "That's what it'll be, boys. What'll it be? It'll happen." And he just goes in this whole tirade about like getting face cancer, and you could tell that's what happened to him. And it is by far one of the funniest, weirdest, most uncomfortable scenes I've ever seen. I just love it to death. But no, like, there's just, like I said, the gore is insane too. Like, it just gets over the top. And the zombie here, I think it's Jethro, when he gets turned, he just is an animal. There's a scene where he dips his face in a puddle. The sound effects are over the top on purpose, like, and they don't overuse them. Like, occasionally there'll be one, but it gets me every time. The sucking the eyeball out of the skull, boom! Just laugh out loud every time. The movie has a direct correlation to my funny bone. It's immature, it's outdated, it's offensive. I just can't help it. It's just demented too. It really is. And I'm a demented guy. I love this damn thing. It looks as good as it's gonna look. I mean, it's shot on analog. But as far as the special features, there's some good stuff in here, okay? So newly transferred and restored from the best archival tapes, presented in fully uncut original director's edit with the following sound options, brand new audio commentary with producer Ed Bishop, director Syracuse Loons, lead actress Lisa M.D. Haven, an archival commentary track with the producer and director, brand new critical commentary track with James Branscombe and Nick Vance of the Cinema Void podcast, isolated score. The score is fucking amazing, by the way. Just Redneck. There's all these sorts of funny songs they wrote for it. Alternate 20th anniversary edit of Redneck Zombies. That's 90 minutes. Sweet Redneck Memories. 83 minutes. That's great because, like, I didn't know anything about this. As many times as I watched this movie, I didn't know the history. I didn't know where these guys ended up. I didn't know exactly who they were. I didn't even know Ellie Mae was Syracuse Loons. I didn't know that was the director. I knew the director's name, but I didn't know he played Ellie Mae. He's fucking hilarious. So we have a making of documentary from 2023. This is the making of here from 2023 with interviews and cast and crew. Unfinished archival making of documentary 14 minutes. Deleted scenes 20 minutes. Outtakes 43 minutes. A scene from Crabtown, USA, a 1986 local cable access show that was a precursor to Redneck Zombies. 3 minutes. That's very funny. In memoriam, we have some deaths, unfortunately. Archival interviews, director Procurers Loons, producer Ed Bishop, associate producer William E. Benson, co-producer Bill Decker, set mother Sandy Bishop, composer Adrian Bond, actors Lisa M.D. Haven, actor Alex Loons, actor Bucky Santini, miscellaneous crew Jeff McKinstry, actor Tyrone Taylor, actor Martin J. Wolfman. Multiple trailers, original, Troma, Transworld Entertainment, Universal, reversible sleeve artwork, English subtitles there. So if you ain't never seen Redneck Zombies and you like cheap, weird, goofy, silly, offensive movies, this is a must. It's one of my all-time favorite movies. The movie's got 5 stars from everybody or 1 star. I'm a 5-star kind of guy for Redneck Zombies. There we go. All right, we're going to hop into those 1981 movies.
Woe be unto him who opens one of the 7 gateways to hell, because through that gateway, evil will invade the world.
Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on and on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. In this little town, when the 14th comes round, there's a silence and fear in the air. Remember the morn that the legend was born, all the shock and the horror was there. Or the legend, they say, on a Valentine's Day is a curse that'll live on, and no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago. And no one will know as the years come and go of the horror from long time ago.
Okay, so these are kind of bizarre ones here, two Japanese ones, and let me say this right. So we have Dr. Ochakonoko's Horror Theater, and this is weird. This is on DVD, and I don't know if all these shorts are originally from 1981 or not. I think they are. So this is the director of Legend of the Starbust Brothers, which is a really fun movie from '85. So this is a 100-minute compilation video. Some of it's anthology, some of it's not. So these look like they're shot on film, most of them. Maybe some of them are not. I don't know. The quality's not great. I used AI subtitles, so the subtitles ain't great either. So, hey. So, this is a weirdish smorgasbord. Some of the shorts are a minute, some are 5 minutes, some are 10 minutes. Nothing's really that long. So we have 100 minutes of those. I can't remember every single short in here. But in the opening, we have this kind of person introducing everything, and they're kind of like, they're saying all these things. It reminds me of a bit of the guinea pig movie where they had the host. I can't remember which one that is. Is it Let Me Die? Was it the Devil Woman, Devil Miss Woman? Whatever one had the host, right? And they kind of explain these stories like that. It's more like the anthology guinea pig film. So. But no, I just mean as far as the host is concerned. So they break it down and just start talking. And essentially the shorts range from, haunted objects, a haunted book, a haunted mirror, all sorts of just bizarre, weird things like that. And then they also range to super goofy stuff that feels like it's right out of a Santo movie where he's wrestling mummies and zombies and shit like that. But that's a lot of them just running down the street and having somebody in a Frankenstein outfit or a mummy outfit, but Arr! Just all sorts of zany weirdness where you can see, yes, that's Legend of the Starbust Brothers for sure, but then you'll see some more horror-oriented ones that are a little bit creepier, like a couple going in to make out in this kind of under this little bridge and then getting locked in there and there's something in there with them. That stuff is scary. All these are so short. They just genuinely set up one scare and just pay it off. Overall, it's interesting. It's cool to see this director's entire little short filmography before he made a feature-length film. And it's also interesting to see these Japanese shorts, to be honest. Student films, basically, or just stuff like that, because it's kind of rare to see any of that. Honestly, I mean, I know Meatball Machine had a short before it was made, 45-minute short, I think. But I'm not too familiar with that. I know, I mean, I've seen, I'm not too familiar with a lot of the direct-to-video, really cheap, low-budget Japanese stuff, shorts that were made before the movies were actually made. I know it's the Guinea Pig movies and a lot of those movies and Entrails of a Virgin. But, and this is early, too. Right? Because we're looking at, in terms of 1981, Japan wasn't putting out that much horror movies. We have a couple from this year, but a lot of them are mysteries or ghost stories. Yes, a couple, and not many. But a lot of them Nakatsu erotic films that border on horror, not necessarily horror. We don't really start getting into horror until we see, the Guinea Pig movies in the mid-'80s. So, seeing some of this stuff, that is kind of the ghost story, the haunted book, the haunted things like that, these objects that attack, these monsters, or they stalk the streets or something like that. The killers, and there was almost a Texas Chainsaw style killer at one point too in here. It's different, it's unique, and I don't think there was too much of it around, or not much of it around for us to see. Over here. But anyways, Dr. Ochakonoko's Horror Theater, interesting look if you can find it. If you can get AI subtitles as well, maybe check it out. It's about 100 minutes. There is a DVD. If I saw the DVD, I would buy it. Why not? But yeah, interesting. Okay, here's another one. Zoom Up, Sexual Crime Report. Now, the Zoom Up films, there's a handful of these made from 1979 to the early 80s. Not all of them are horror. Not all of them are even kind of darker. Some of them I think are even comedies, to be honest. So this one leans more into the horror territory. I think 1979 Rape Site I have watched, and that one's definitely horror. This one is kind of a horror film in a lot of aspects. I had to do AI subtitles, not great as well. So I don't know how much we're going to keep doing these AI subtitles. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're okay, sometimes they're dog shit, sometimes they're great here, and then shit, great. So here's what we get. So essentially, there's this woman who's getting ready to get married, which is a very common thing in a lot of these Japanese movies, right? She's getting married, and then she get raped, and then she has to hide it because her husband will disown her. It happens a lot of these Nikatsu movies. It's like a thing, dishonor and everything like that, the rape and the shame, all that kind of things like that. So this woman, as she's getting ready to be married, she seems very happy. On her way home, she gets into it with this motorcycle gang on the road. She is gang raped by 4 of them. They don't show everything, but they do show some, and then they come back and show it later. And then she kind of goes to this house to meet like her boyfriend or her fiance, and she's really leery about sleeping with him, obviously, because something tragic just happened to her, and she's just kind of not feeling very good about the whole thing, right? And as it progresses, like things start to get weird. He leaves the house. There is some police outside. The police are outside. They're coming for me because I'm watching pervert movies like Zoom Up Sexual Crime Report, but. So essentially, what happens is the husband leaves, and she's left with the maid of sorts, or somebody who's working there, and she starts to bring in friends. And these friends look awfully familiar to her, and they end up being some of the rapist bikers. And as it goes on, we learn that not everyone is who they say they are. There's some ploys, there's some plots, and there's a lot of sexual degradation. There's a lot of, molestation. And by the end of the movie, you just feel really bad for her. It's very similar to the other one, where the guy kidnapped her from this year and had her in a basement and was using her as a sexual object. So many of these kind of these Nikatsu films follow this kind of tradition of, rape. Yeah, the tradition of rape. That sounds so fucking bad. Basically, the trope of, this woman being kidnapped, forced against her will, manipulated, all these kind of things. But the ending here, I think, has a decent payoff. Overall, Zoom Up Sexual Crime Report is worth watching if you're into the Nikatsu erotic films. I can't think of the one I watched a couple weeks ago that had the same vibes. That's the problem, too, is they all have similar names. They all have similar stories. And there's a couple that stand out, like Sex Hunter stands out. Right, or Zoom Up Rape Site stands out, or Hunting Beautiful Women that stands out because some of them just cross that line. White campus rose and everybody gets raped. Some of them are just like, I can't believe they're fucking doing this, so they stand out. A lot of them are just kind of like this, where they're gross and fucked up, but they're all just kind of in the same vein. So yeah, this one is all right. If you're a completist, then maybe check it out. There is a lot of dialogue, and the subtitles are AI, so they're not great. Okay, the next one here's a Patreon pick by Tyler Tadeo, and he picked Exotica. And I didn't know too much about this movie. This is an early 90s film. And I put this in, and I saw the cast, and I was like, it's a good, strong cast. I mean, and I saw Elias Cotes. That's the name that stood out to me. And I was like, this is like, I don't know the director. I just didn't know much about this film. And right in the beginning, we have like Leonard Cohen on the soundtrack. And I'm like, oh, we got some good music. We got a strip joint. We got some sexual stuff. We got full frontal nudity. I was like, this looks really horny. This looks very mid-90s thriller, kind of sexual. Somebody staying up late at night and rubbing one off to this kind of deal. So that's what I was kind of getting the vibe of. So, and it's a little better. It's a lot better than I would say probably. But so we have the stripper who is always dressed as a schoolgirl. Elias Cotes is kind of the guy who is behind the DJ booth and announces them and gives them their introductions and all these kind of things. And he's a little off. He's obviously obsessed with her. He is entangled in a relationship with a strip joint owner and basically was forced to impregnate her for whatnot, these weird reasons. And at the same time, we have this insurance guy who does insurance claims, who goes to the strip joint all the time. He seems very flustered, very upset. He constantly is visiting his brother and his niece, and he has had a tragedy in his life, of course, you can tell. And at the same time, we have a guy who's, I think he's a foreign guy, and he is running an exotic pet store, but he's also smuggling in shit. And the insurance agent is looking into his life to figure out what the fuck is going on. How you're like, why are all these different people? They're all going to intermingle. It's all going to come together, and it's all going to be pretty decent. So as the movie progresses, we start to learn more and more, and we start to lean towards violence. Like we're going to have this giant violent act in the film. We're having these breaking points. We're having all these kind of issues. shoes, and we learn a lot about the characters, and we keep flashing back to these past moments, and you think you don't really never register what they're doing it for, maybe just background character, but this is one time where like you could say that went nowhere, but this, in a lot of movies it never does. This really is the payoff. Those little flashbacks of character development are actually the major payoff into the end of the film, really, in a way, because they kind of build to something that never happens, but you don't want it to happen, but you expect it to happen, but it really doesn't. Elias Cotes kind of was on a run in the 90s. He's an underrated actor, I would say. I always thought he was good. I mean, Casey Jones from Ninja Turtles, but of course in 1990 he also did the remake of Desperate Hours, the Michael Cimino film, which was the remake of the Humphrey Bogart movie. The Bogart movie is better, but he's probably one of the best part in the movie. I think he's probably the best performance, to be honest, in that remake. And then of course he would later pop up in Crash in 96. So like this is in between that. This is like 94, 95, and he's solid in it, and he has some good dialogue. The stuff he says is disturbing because he's talking about this like is the girl who's acting underage and all these kind of things, and you're always worried that the movie's going to go real dark into a sexual like pedophile thing, and you don't really want it to go there. But I was kind of like happy it didn't go there, just because I was just like, I don't know, it's uncomfortable as shit. But there's plenty of nudity, a good soundtrack, it looks good, it looks solid, there's plenty of interesting storylines. The one character is a smuggler, as definitely like a homosexual, and as like going into that aspect, and you're sort of like watching this character like just go for it like the whole time. But overall, I think it's a good movie. I never really heard about it, so it was nice. It was a nice watch. I enjoyed it. I would probably watch it again or check out the director's other work. But yeah, that is Exotica, the name of the. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. It is just Exotica, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I wrote it down, but that's the name of the club. So good stuff. I think it's a Canadian film, is my guess. I would say so. All right, let's get these questions, comments, concerns. Bad Brains Horror. Joe Bigos movie you mentioned, VFW. Always great stuff from you, Dave. Happy holidays. Ordered Mad God from Phil Tippett. Thanks for the recommendation. Mad God's insane. I need to pick up one myself. Oh, yeah, VFW. My brain is doo-doo brain. Film Wolf. Hey, Dave. Bloodsucking Freaks, a real VHS rental memory of once it kicks in watching the film with one eye on the door thinking, if Mom walks in right now, I'm dead. Same with I Spit on Your Grave. Two nasty films she let me rent as a teenager but had no idea what they contained. I legitimately think the guy who played Sardu was pretty great. He definitely would have played well in a John Waters film. No doubt. Tipsy Bones. Which box set is better for you, Savage Guns or Blood Money? I'm going to look right now because I can't remember what's in Blood Money. I completely forgot to look for you, but I'm looking. So this is killing time. Where is Blood Money? So that's the thing is, I can't remember if this one has Massacre Time in it. See, that's the problem with the box sets, the Western ones. So Blood Money, Vengeance is Mine. I'm going to have to give it to the Savage Guns, because that Savage Guns has the Fulci for the Apocalypse in it. And For the Apocalypse is the cream of the crop of those. So I'd go Savage Guns just for the Apocalypse. But that's me. Overall, all four films, hard to say. Then we have Hudson. I don't know if anybody else does this, but when I'm watching your updates on my 50-inch TV, I keep tilting my head to read the VHS titles of your VHS collection behind you. Do you still collect them? And would they be the first to go if you needed space for new Blu-rays and 4Ks? Do you keep everything, even movies you don't like? Have a good one. I don't keep, like, if I upgrade a Blu-ray or a 4K and it has all the features, I don't keep it. I might even get rid of some of the DVDs that I've upgraded, even if there might be a missing feature. Just can't keep it all. I would not get rid of the VHS at this point in my life, just because it would be a pain in the ass to sell them, and you'd have to go through everything and make sure there was no mold, and you'd have to do so much stuff. And some of them are probably worth quite a bit. I don't collect VHS anymore. I used to collect them when you couldn't get them on DVD and Blu-ray. I gave away so many good VHS that would probably be worth thousands of dollars now. Before this was at the time when I upgraded, I'd give them away. I probably gave away all the Friday 13th, all the Halloweens, all sorts of shit. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff really wasn't worth dog shit. After the DVDs and Blu-rays when you were a kid, they were selling for pennies. But I would collect stuff that didn't have releases. And that stuff's still worth some amount of money, right? But that's what I would do. And then we have Simpsons Guy 360. Which cut of Zombie Holocaust do you prefer? I've never seen the Dr. Butcher MD cut. Got to pick up that Bloodsucking Freaks 4K. The movie has been on my watch list for ages, and I've never watched it. Also, I'd love a top 10 of your favorite releases of the year. I think I'll do that if I remember. Go with Zombie Holocaust cut. Better music, longer, gorier. The Nick Moore from Belgium. Though we seem to be heading from a dystopian future, I can't help but love a dystopian future features. So that Green, Terry Gilliam's Brazil, Powell's 1984, both the John Hurt and Peter Cushing versions. I find myself reveling in the despair of these pictures. The Warriors is one of the same mold, it would appear. I'll have to pick it up, especially after your enthusiastic review. I wouldn't say dystopian, I would say basically it feels like a dystopian. It's not like the end of the world has happened, but it feels like it's about to. I was already thinking of acquiring it after Macaulay Culkin gave it a 5-star review on Red Letter Media, but you've convinced me, sir. Mac ain't got nothing on you. Thank you. Do you think we're heading for a dystopian society? Are we already in one? I mean, who's to know? Everybody always thinks that society's going to end when they're alive, but who really knows that? This is me plugging this in so I can save some battery. If I can even get around this. This is me live. You see that? There we go. I didn't want to lose it. Yeah, but as far as dystopian society is concerned, I don't know. I hope not. But it always feels that way. I'm a cynical guy. Don't ask me these questions. If you were a leader of a tyrannical government in dystopian society, how would you stay on top? With an iron fist. No, I wouldn't want to be on top. By then, I would be so far gone. I don't know. I really don't know. Turn people against each other. That's what they do to us, right? You trying to get me answers? You trying to get me in trouble? Name your three out and out. Name your 3 out and out dystopian horror movies. Favorite? I have no idea. No, like when you ask questions like that, that requires so much research that I didn't research it. Dystopian horror movies, like exactly do you mean dystopian end of the world? Like I guess Dawn of the Dead would be considered, or Day of the Dead. It's going to be all Romero movies. It's all going to be zombie films. So all zombie films is basically my answer because they're my favorite. Loving those horror 1981 videos. Please keep them coming, and remember 2 + 2 = 5 because Big Brother's always right. Yep, Kentuckinator 3942. Huge slam on Wizard of Gore out of nowhere, and I'll do it again. And I'll do it every day. Fuck Wizard of Gore. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you're right. You're right. Stephen Hyde, your videos make me smile. Nice job. Thank you. Brian's Mask. I love your videos and reviews. I was looking forward to this video. Gonna sit back and eat some popcorn. Thanks for the new video. Thanks for commenting. Yeah, let's get into the update. It's quick. It's one movie. I got some other stuff coming, but this time it's only one. It's The Exorcist in 4K. Good price. Wanted to watch it in 4K, the original version. Yeah, so not going to pass up The Exorcist for $15 in 4K. I didn't get the giant master edition, but I'll live. I'm going to be okay. Next week, I'll probably have like 5 or 6, maybe probably about 10 titles for you for the update. But yeah, let's get out of here. All right, guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one.